Hey friends, Mark Holmes here, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. This is some breaking news right now. Um, this coronavirus, this shit just kind of got real.
America, one of the most recognizable, said when asked about the NBA playing games in front of stadiums full of people, said the U.S. should avoid, at this point, large gatherings. And he said, if that means then the NBA should play in front of no fans, so be it. Well, since we have been in the air tonight, we've had a development along that line. The NBA has now announced the suspension of their season.
The season
I'm just going to read you their press release. The NBA announced that a player on the Utah Jazz has preliminarily tested positive for COVID-19. The test result was reported shortly prior to the tip-off of tonight's game between the Jazz and the Oklahoma City Thunder at Chesapeake Energy Arena in Oklahoma. At that time, tonight's game was canceled. The affected player was not in the arena. The NBA is suspending gameplay following the conclusion of tonight's schedule of games until further notice. The NBA will use this hiatus to determine next steps for moving forward in regard to the coronavirus pandemic. So again, moments ago, we had heard that that game had been delayed and then called off. We now know why it was. Again, a Utah Jazz player is preliminarily tested positive. That game is off tonight. The NBA season has been suspended.
Okay, so if you've been under a rock here, the president went on and basically said we're not taking any flights from Europe. There will be some exceptions like London. But this thing is growing quite a bit. Now, we're just beginning to get testing and stuff on there, but the NBA has a player from the Utah Jazz who's tested positive for the coronavirus. They had delayed the game, and then they postponed it, and now they're suspending the season until further notice. So for anybody who was wondering or still thinking about me going to the draft, I ain't going to the draft. I've been on the fence since we started hearing about this stuff. And, as we had, it's just Seattle, Washington. And, then you got a couple here. We had just down the street from me at Fort Belvoir, a Marine. Then the next day it was another Marine. And I think yesterday evening, I think it was 7 or 9. So, one becomes 3 and 3 becomes 9 and 9 becomes 81. It sounds crazy, I know, when I said this before earlier today, but I think what you really need to do, since this takes like 2 weeks to incubate, if you go to school or go to work and you got it and it's incubating, you're passing it on to the next person. They won't know that they have it for another 2 weeks. It sounds crazy, but when you think about what other countries are trying to do, shut down, economically, it's going to hurt. But maybe 2 to 3 weeks, everybody stays home. If you end up having it in 2 weeks, then you get treatment. You start showing signs, you get treatment for it. But that way, we're not just having it pass and pass and pass and pass. Because, you're going to pay me now or you're going to pay me later. This thing's growing pretty quick. And when we first heard China shutting down a whole province, we thought, that's crazy. We can't do that. Well, we got the National Guard with inclusion zones where you can't leave. We got Italy, who was locked down the whole country. No more travel, nothing. No public gatherings. We've got governors saying no public gatherings, over like 250 people. We've got medical experts that are not recommending that you have crowds. The NCAA is not having their, tournament with fans. That may change, and it seems like on a daily basis, this changes and gets more and more and more. What we're hearing now, the NBA canceling the season, I've been having discussions with E2 Blue. I'm kind of like, I don't think that this thing's going to happen. And he's like, no, man, this is America and stuff. This isn't, some small country or China and stuff, and this stuff isn't real. It's only getting old people and stuff. Well, here's the thing. Here would be my advice, okay? My advice is, and they say, just wash your hands. Wash your hands, okay? Wash your hands, because they might sneeze and touch something. Well, when you sneeze, and I don't know if you've ever sneezed like in the car where the sun's coming through, and when you sneeze, you see that whole cloud of snot droplets that are going through the air. Basically, you get close to somebody, they sneeze. That shit goes everywhere. So they're just learning about this virus. Just like a cold passes from person to person to person, it's passing from person to person. So the best thing is stay up, keep some distance. Don't touch anybody. Like I said, wash your hands. I wouldn't get panic struck, but we got to do some maybe drastic things in here. The NBA suspending the season until further notice. You got to figure the draft and free agency can't be too far behind that.